Hi, I'm Judy from JudiKins. I'm so excited to be here because I have something fun to share with you. If you're like me, you like pop-ups, but always thought they were too complicated to add to your scrapbook pages. I have a fun new way to show you how to add pop-ups to your scrapbook pages that's as easy as using stickers. The first step that we're going to do is make the photo mat for our page. I have some blank sheets of cardstock here that I'm going to stamp, and you could see here that I've stamped around the edge or the margin of the mat. And the way that I did that was with this long stamp that we call a boleo. And the boleo is kind of nice because it has 4 images on one stamp, so you get a whole set at one time. Take your ink pad, and I like these ink pads because the pad is raised off of the plastic, which allows me to ink up a large stamp. Tap the ink directly onto the stamp, make sure you get even coverage, and press straight down along the edge. You don't want to rock your stamp because you'll pick up some of these sides if you got ink on there. Reapply the ink, just press down. I'm going to turn my paper so it's a little easier. Stamp along this one edge. I'm just going to eyeball here approximately where my photo is going to go. One thing that I see that I'm going to have a little bit of a problem is if I stamp my image over these pieces, I'll have double imaging. I have this great paper tape called Eclipse tape that helps me mask that portion of my stamping. So I lay the tape down, one more for the last corner here. Now, find the shell side of my stamp, ink that up, and capture that last edge. Press straight down, and you need to remove the tape. And now I have this great mat for my photographs. My next mat is for my large photograph. I've left about 1/8 of an inch around the edge of the mat. My last element is the background card for my pop-up. What I did was I printed my photograph with 1/4 of an inch border around my photo. And you notice I left the bottom half of the page blank. This is where I'm going to be putting my journaling. And I stamped around the edge so that it matches the other mats that I have. My next step is to score my cards so I have this nice crease for folding. And I'm just going to press my bone folder along the ruler and now fold my card along that score line and push with my bone folder away from me. And now I have a nice crease. The next piece is a picture of my nephew Chris. This was one of the first times that he went tide pooling with my husband and I and my sister. I've already cut him out. And you notice there's some white spots around his shoulders and a little bit around his head. I'm not really crazy about that because it just looks unfinished. So the way to fix that is you take a black marker and you just rub the marker along the edge of the paper. And now my pop-up piece looks very finished. The next step is to use the poppies from JudiKins. I have this clear sticker that has scored lines on it that's going to create a block. If I fold on the score lines with the sticky side out and attach the 2 end pieces, fold them right on top of each other, that creates the pop block. You'll notice that there's no sticky on the top, but there's a half sticky in the front and full sticky on the bottom and the back panel. The half sticky is where I'm going to put Chris that's going to pop out of the card. The reason why it's half sticky is because when I attach him, this bottom piece of the pop block has no sticky on it, and that's the piece that's going to lay down against the card. I'm going to take my card now, and this bottom corner is going to fit right in the crease of my card. So I just set him in, press down in the bottom, and then press my card closed and push down real carefully and now he pops up. When I close this, the top of my card is blank, and it needs something to be attached to the front here. This is called a shark egg case. So this is going to be the front part of my card. I've got my trio over here to use as my adhesive. Now the trio is kind of interesting because there's 3 widths of a double-sided adhesive in the container. It has 12mm tape, 6mm tape, and 3mm tape. The way that you use the trio is there's the little tab of the release liner. You hold that down with one hand and you pull the dispenser with the other. Make sure that you press down on the release paper so that the adhesive is stuck onto the card really well, and just pull away your tape. If this little tail gets to be too long, you just tear that off and throw that away. Pull, press down, and take my little shark egg case. Make sure that we're straight, and that is going to be my finished pop-up. What I'm going to do next is make my shell garland. So here's my gold embossing powder. I have some metallic ink, and I have this great tray here that we call a Snappy tray. And the Snappy tray is kind of fun. I'm going to show you this very quickly. It has snaps on it, thus the name Snappy tray. And if you're storing this at home, you just store it in, you can store it flat. It doesn't take up a whole lot of room. And when you're ready to use it, you just assemble it and snap it together. Now let's stamp my image. I have this shell. I like this one here. Ink up my stamp. And just press down without rocking. Get a nice stamped image. Now I'm going to pour the powder onto the stamped image. Now take your tray and tap the powder down to your jar so you return all the excess. If a little bit of the powder sticks, just brush it down with your little sparkle sweeper here, and it comes right out of the funnel. Now take your heat tool and we're going to melt the powder. For those of you who haven't seen embossing, this is really fun. I have 5 shells that I've stamped and cut out. Now I'm going to color them in. I've got these watercolor crayons, which are so easy to use. You just take the crayon and rub it into the areas that you want to color. And I actually want a little pink here, so I'm going to take a little red and mix it with white so that the white ends up blending to create some pink. I have this great tool called a water brush. This has revolutionized watercoloring. And now I'm going to paint by pulling the colors together with water here. And see how the color just magically appears? Set that aside, and now I'm going to put my garland together. I've punched a hole in each of the shells that I've actually stamped and cut out. Just tie on the end, and now you have your shell garland. I have this great gray-blue cardstock for my scrapbook page. So I'm putting my panoramic photo down first, and I have my large photo, and now I'm going to apply my pop-up element like so. I have a finished page over here that shows you all the final pieces that I've used to assemble my page. I've written the title in on the bottom of my large photograph here, and now I've attached the garland with the shells onto my page by gluing it onto the back. In order to keep my card closed, I use some clear photo corners that I can tuck in the bottom portion of my card. And you notice when I pop it up, I have all of my journaling on the inside of the card. So you can see as I close it, I just tuck those corners in to my little photo corners. I have some great samples to show you of other pop-ups that we've made. This pop-up card is a lot of fun because it's some friends of mine from work. The way that you make this card is you have to take 3 photographs. You photograph the blank wall first, then you photograph 1 row of people, then you also take another row of people, have them stand there and take that 3rd photo. You print out all 3 photographs and you cut out each element. It's very easy. This card is a lot of fun because it uses that same pop block in a little bit different orientation. When I open it up, you see I have the table with my block underneath, and I also have the cake on the top, just the way that I made the other cards. Here's one more project. This uses one of the other pieces from the Poppies line called the hinge. Now I've left the hinges open so you can see how this goes together. If I were doing this at home, I would actually cut the same color card or maybe some printed paper so you'd cover up the hinges inside. But you notice you create this nice little book here. When I close this, I can tuck in my little corner here so that it stays closed. And instead of using a photo corner, what I did was I stamped out this gargoyle and I put the glue at the bottom and along the edge here, and I left his head free of glue so I could tuck in the corner of my card. And because we're stamping, I actually stamped the background paper with rubber stamps. Now that you've seen how easy it is to put pop-ups in your photo pages, I hope you'll go home and try this. See you later.
For step-by-step instructions on how to create this week's project, download the design guide featuring special make-it-your-own bonus tips.